thevoicebeforethevoid.net. William Rowe's sighting story from Bigfoot, America's Abominable Snowman by Elwood D. Bauman. Read by The Voice Before the Void.
But yeah, I've read some short stories and poetry. It's good. William Rowe had been brought up in the North Woods of Michigan. He was fascinated by wild animals and spent all his spare time studying their lives and habits. After finishing school, he went to Canada and supported himself by hunting and trapping. Later, he took a job with a road-building gang in British Columbia. One Sunday in October 1955, Rowe decided to climb up Mica Mountain. It meant a 5-mile walk, but he had nothing else to do. There was a deserted mine near the top of the mountain, and he thought he'd take a look at that. He came in sight of the mine about 3 o'clock. He had been walking through low brush, but there was a clearing in front of him. In the brush on the far side of the clearing, he saw what he first thought was a grizzly bear. Although it was only about 75 yards away, Rowe had no desire to shoot it. Instead, he sat down on a rock and watched, his rifle resting across his knees. From his sitting position, he could just see part of the animal's head and the top of one shoulder. A moment later, it stepped out into the opening, and Rowe almost rolled off his rock. The creature wasn't a bear. It wasn't, in fact, like anything Rowe had ever seen before. While Rowe stared in utter amazement, the creature came across the clearing and headed straight toward him. It walked like a man, but as it came closer, Rowe could tell by the breasts that it was a female. It was about 7 feet tall, 3 feet across the shoulders, and weighed about 500 pounds. Dark brown hair covered it from head to foot. Its arms were much thicker than a man's head and reached almost to its knees. When it walked, it placed the heel down first, and Rowe could see the gray-brown skin on the soles of the feet. The creature came to the edge of the bush Rowe was now hiding in and squatted down within 20 feet of him. Reaching out its hands, it pulled the branches of bushes toward it and stripped off the leaves with strong white teeth. It was obviously having its lunch. Rowe was much too fascinated to be frightened. He was certain that he was seeing an animal virtually unknown to science, and he studied it closely. The creature's head, he told John Green, was higher at the back than at the front. The nose was broad and flat. The lips and chin protruded farther than the nose. The hair covering it was only about an inch long, and the hair on the face was even shorter. Its ears were shaped like a human's ears, but its neck was entirely unhuman. It was shorter and much thicker than the neck of any man Rowe had ever seen. Several long minutes passed before the creature finally spotted Rowe. It parted some bushes and found itself staring straight into the man's eyes. A look of complete astonishment appeared on its face. Still in a crouched position, it backed up 3 or 4 short steps, then straightened up to its full height and began walking rapidly away. It kept watching the man over its shoulder, but it seemed to be more curious than afraid. A sudden thought flashed through Rowe's mind. If I shoot this animal, he reflected, I'll probably have a specimen of great interest to the scientific world. Raising his rifle, he took careful aim at the back of the creature's head. Just at that moment, the thing turned around again and took another look. Rowe sighed and lowered his rifle. I just couldn't do it, he reported. It looked so much like a human being that I knew I would never forgive myself if I killed it. When the creature reached the far side of the clearing, it threw its head back and made a peculiar noise that Rowe could only describe as a whinny. Then it walked through the brush and into the forest. Rowe saw it again when it came out on a small ridge a couple of 100 yards away. Once again it threw back its head and made the same weird whinnying sound before disappearing around a corner. Whether this creature was a Sasquatch, or an abominable snowman, or a Bigfoot, or what, I just don't know, Rowe admits. I had never seen anything like it before, and what it was that I saw will always remain a mystery to me. I hate to sound bloodthirsty, John Green said when I was visiting him at his home in Harrison Hot Springs, but I think William Rowe should have shot this creature. We've got to give the scientific world some concrete evidence that these creatures or subhumans actually exist. If we can't capture one alive, then I think one should be shot. Bigfoot, America's Abominable Snowman.
I didn't realize they were synonymous. I thought...
By Elwood D. Bauman. No, they're not.
Okay.
But it was published in 1973, and the Abominable Snowman became known in the 1950s with that one mountain climber on Everest who took a photograph of those footprints. Who was it? It was the really famous climber. Was it Hillary? The first guy to summit with
Couldn't tell
with
you.
Tenzing Norgay. Anyway, yeah, that became like known before the American one, which came about, in the 60s with like some people in California reporting, stuff in the mountains. And then, of course, the film made a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, usually people talk about them as related. Certainly, like the phenomenon is similar.
Yeah.